Hey everybody, Brian Helix Missionary here, and welcome back to 2 Weeks One Shot, a tabletop RPG variety podcast. Before we get into the episode, I just wanted to share some more exciting news. We've reached over 200 followers on Twitter. We'd like to give a huge thank you to everyone who's become part of our community already. If you'd like to be part of the action too, you can follow @TwosCast. That's TWOS Cast. In case you're joining us for the first time this week, this episode is actually the second for our adventure in Deadlands. If you'd like to hear the full skinny of what's happening here in the Weird West, go ahead and pause this and jump on over to episode 4. Don't you worry, we'll be right here waiting when you catch up. That said, when last we left our compadres, I believe their ride had just arrived at the station. Previously on 2 Weeks One Shot, you have been hired to find a man who goes by the name of Viper.
Our task is to kill them all.
You hire a scientist to commit murder?
Yeah, you hire this guy to commit murder. Team A goes and tortures one of these rail workers. Team B gets me a very, very light salad.
I'm gonna look for anything that looks like records and stuff that's out of the ordinary.
I'm looking for anybody who's super into vipers, anybody who has like a snake fetish at the moment.
Surprisingly common.
Only time I've been hearing about this Viper fellow is from folks coming in from that Black River rail.
There's a lot of suspected, witchery and witchcraft with this company.
They stopped at the station halfway to take on water for up in the mountains.
Well, there's nothing more suspicious than water.
Sounds like it's train time, boys.
Indeed, train time it is.
Silas gets on the train.
Love me some choo-choos.
Train is a decent one. It's not like a particularly nice passenger train. Doesn't have a lot of amenities. It's pretty short. There's really just 4 cars after the locomotive. There's just a coal car, 1 car for passengers, and then a couple cars for cargo.
It's a private train. Fancy.
It's not really a private train.
Oh.
You're not the only ones
Boo.
who are getting onto this train. There's a couple of other passengers.
Fuck this.
They board as you do. You already had your tickets, of course, and so you are able to present those to the conductor.
I bet they got us fantastic seats.
There's no assigned seating on this train, but he gets you 2 seats, effectively at least. There's definitely some looks given at the fact that you guys are armed. They do make a point of letting you know that your weapons can be safely secured in one of the boxcars, and they will be returned to you, of course, upon reaching your destination.
But they can also be safely secured in my holster.
The conductor, he gives you a look that says that he very much would like to say no.
See here, Mr. Conductor, I should explain to you that my cannabis-powered herbal ghost steel weapon is actually also a percolator. If you just spin it over and pack it out the bottom here and like that, it becomes, well, just a lovely gentleman's pipe.
Why didn't you just first introduce it as a percolator? Why did you start off with a weapon?
You know, it does do both, and sometimes the priorities of one's instruments may be confusing.
Sons, it is the policy of Black River Rail that passengers are allowed to maintain hold of their small arms while they are on board the train, so I do not have the authority to relieve you of your firearms, but I will...
Well then, good. Thank you.
I will remind you that should any trouble arise on the train and yourselves be found accountable for it, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the local laws.
Trouble? Us? I assure you, never. And then I do a couple of little finger guns at him.
Now, which localities' laws are we talking about? As we are moving, after all.
The laws of wherever we happen to be when the trouble arises.
So I should plan my trouble to be a little bit later on, as the free locations have much better laws in terms of trouble. I take a large hit of my pipe.
Everywhere from here to Denver, the punishment for the sort of trouble you cause with firearms is going to be a hanging. So just keep your guns in your holsters and I think we'll be fine. And he removes himself from dealing with the three of you.
Well, that was easier than I thought it'd be.
Little did he know.
Silas is just gonna go sit down because he knew that guy wasn't gonna try to take my gun anyways.
I guess I'll go sit down with Silas. As I walk through the cart, I'm giving everyone finger guns.
You sit down next to Silas, and all three of you are able to find seats on the train, and you're hanging out. Shortly before the train leaves the station, as the last couple of folks are boarding, let me make a quick roll for no reason in particular.
Oh, no reason whatsoever.
He just likes it.
All right, good. That's excellent.
Excellent for who? For you or for me?
Everybody involved.
Okay.
As you're getting ready to leave the station, the conductor is actually starting to lean out to wave up to the locomotive that you're good to go, when a young woman practically slams into him bodily. She very rapidly begins giving her apologies for that and everything. And she rushes in, and the only empty seat is the one next to you. This is not a fully crowded train car, but there aren't too many seats. And she sits down, just starts smoothing out the skirt of her dress, and she turns to give you a smile, and then you see her nose sort of twitch as she sniffs. And there's an important question for you right now, and that's, what does Fernando smell like? Because there are really two options here, and I need to know which one it is.
Fernando smells like stale tobacco and days-old barbecue.
Really?
That's that nice southern blend.
Yeah. It's got a real hickory smoke to him.
Because Fernando is a Harrowed, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's why he's sickly looking and everything.
Yes.
And for those at home, Harrowed are a special type of character and creature in Deadlands. They are technically undead, but they are more than a zombie. They're not a sort of mindless walking around creature. They have their own soul and their own mind, but they have a hitchhiker on for the ride. They have a small evil spirit that's helping to power their flesh, and it every now and again tries to take control and cause some trouble. But one of the things about Harrowed, with the fact that they're dead, when you're a walking corpse, you tend not to smell very nice. Harrowed tend to smell either like rotten meat and corpse decay smell of some sort, or if they drink a lot, if they make use of their daily libations, they are able to sort of mask their scent in a what's usually called the pickling effect. And that allows them to smell like a god-awful drunk, but at least not a dead person.
Oh, well, Fernando's been sober for years.
Fernando has been sober for years, but I will say that, Fernando, you've been around for a while. All of your characters have. You've been this way for a little bit. You know what you usually smell like. You've figured out you can sort of mask it with, it's not quite as effective as the drinking, but you find that if you just stink like tobacco and what else did you say there?
Days old barbecue.
Days old barbecue. If you just get enough, little bits of sauce and tobacco stains on your clothes and rub it in there, not where anyone can see the stains, obviously, because then they'll be like, oh, gross. But, if you hide the source of the smell, but you get it on there strong enough, most folks, if they smell that, they don't necessarily sniff any closer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I keep a small bottle of barbecue sauce on me at all times. Just a nice little glaze.
It's kind of still a pickling effect. It's just that instead of pickling yourself with booze, you pickle yourself with the sauce. Literally.
Oh, yeah. Get a good flavor.
Is that his, after he's done gunslinging, he's going to open up his own little barbecue joint, make his own sauce?
Are you the Dave Grohl of gunslingers?
Yes, that's what it is. I'll be a hero, and I'll give someone the best of me, I guess. I don't know a lot of Foo Fighters songs off the top of my head.
You know what? That's good enough.
I want to be your monkey wrench, I think.
Sure. What we're arriving at here is that unlike most Harrowed, when Fernando says he's hitting the sauce, he means it very literally.
Yeah.
Just chug that shit, bro.
She definitely, her nose sort of wrinkles, and she sniffs a couple of times, and then she tries to cover it up. She's polite. She gives you a smile. She does grab a little pocket handkerchief and sort of press it up to her nose, as the women of the Old West may be wont to do.
I'm inclined to think I might not even notice that she's being bothered by my scent.
If you don't give her a second look once she collapses into the chair next to you.
I think my scent is more her problem than my problem, really.
With that, the conductor gives the signal up to the locomotive, and a moment later, you all feel the train begin to move as the engine starts ratcheting up to full speed, and you pull out from Dodge City on the way to your destination, hopefully. If any of you want to, go ahead and give me, probably notice rolls would be the only one that necessarily makes sense, and then depending on that, I might have one or two of you roll something else as well.
New die. Here we go. Ace.
Beautiful.
I got an ace of 6 and then +2 on my second roll.
Okay, so you got an 8.
8 total, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm rolling. Click. 4-4.
You got 2 4s. Okay, that's just a 4 total.
Damn.
Alex, Fernando.
Okay, here comes this bad boy. That is an ace and a 2.
On what die?
A d6.
Then roll it again.
That's a 5.
Okay, so you got an 11, John got an 8, and Harold got a 4. So you all got successes, 2 of you got raises, which is great. As the train is going out, you're sort of looking around the car. It's a couple of hours until you're going to get to Devil Gorge. You've got some time to sit, maybe not relax. There's maybe a dozen other people on here. Of those dozen other people, there's the conductor, and there is one man seated by the door to the baggage cars who is very obviously an employee of the railroad. He does have a gun at his hip. Of the other passengers in the car, most of them don't really catch your eye. Most of them seem like they're just sort of, standard passengers. There's a family of 4. You might catch a little bit of their conversation. They're going out to visit a relative.
That sounds important.
Yeah, very important stuff. You realize that it's Viper in disguise as that little girl.
Shoot them.
No, you're all hanging out. Most of the passengers don't really, they don't seem all that important. However, 3 of them, various among you, do catch that there's something going on with 3 of the passengers in particular. And it is 2 men and the woman who sat down next to Fernando. A little ways after you get going, about the time that the train is picking up full speed and getting into the, hills leading up into the mountains, you catch, particularly Fernando and Silas, you both catch a couple of very surreptitious nods between these 3. It's first one of the men sort of looks to the other one and they share a look for a moment, and then that's what you pick up on that, and then you realize as that second man sort of turns and you're not sure where he's looking for a moment, and then you realize he is looking at the woman, and the woman next to Fernando hides it very well. She times it like right as the train is going over a bump, but you do notice she gives definitely a nod toward him. And then that guy looks back at the other one and they, share another sort of look and a subtle nod. Both of those men are carrying not only revolvers on their hips, but they do also each appear to have a rifle slung in a boot over their shoulders. Other than that, they're in very standard looking sort of, working clothes, nothing that seems out of the ordinary, no emblems or badges or anything to identify them. The woman appears completely unarmed, but I'd like both of you, Fernando and Silas, to make an occult roll for me.
What does an occult roll pertain in this world?
In Savage Worlds, occult is one of the skills that would be called like a knowledge skill. And so it's primarily used for knowledge of certain things in the world. Occult, particularly in Deadlands, is useful for understanding certain things about different magical practices in the world, different strange creatures out there. A lot of the time, occult knowledge is going to be based in sort of folklore and superstition, unless you happen to have particular training or insider knowledge that would be helpful for knowing more of the truth.
I got a 5.
I aced the wild die, and I got a 1 on my d4.
Okay, go ahead and roll that wild die again then.
That is a 5, so it's a total of 11.
All right, an 11 on the notice and 11 on the occult. Fernando is on point.
It's the sauce.
Normally in Savage Worlds, to sort of aid another or help each other on a roll, you kind of have to declare that. In this case, I'm going to sort of save it. You guys are doing that, working with each other as you're noticing this. John, so you got a 5, which is going to add 1 to Alex's roll, bringing you up to a total of 12 for a success and 2 raises, which is really good. But more important than that, even in some ways, is the fact that you're a Texas Ranger. And before this mission began, because you're a Texas Ranger, you were given an extra little excerpt from the Ranger's Bible, their book on fugitives. And that special excerpt came from the fabled 13th chapter. And that chapter is what's filled with bits of occult knowledge that the Rangers have gathered over the years about various supernatural goings-on in the West.
It has a list of deals from Hot Topic.
Yeah, it's got all the deals from Hot Topic and the latest songs that you should listen to prove to your friends that you are a goth.
In certain towns, there's 50% off on the earrings.
It confirms which bands are goth and which ones are emo, which is a very important thing to keep in mind when traveling in the Old West.
Texas Rangers are so emo.
But no, the specific bit that you were given deals with witchcraft and its related, symbols and effects and everything, specifically as relating to common practices in the South, and a couple of notes based on their belief that Black River Rail may have some dealings with that. And this is what enables, between the two of you, to notice when that woman is nodding to the man and she sort of leans back and she grabs her handkerchief again and sort of pats at her face. And when she does that, you notice what you didn't notice before, which is that she has several rings on. And at first glance, these might be standard looking rings, but between the two of you, you both are able to notice that there's definitely some occult imagery on these rings. These aren't just decorated. They aren't just set with stones. They have some very specific symbols on them. These aren't the sort of symbols that just might happen to be on something and be in vogue. These are definitely actual symbols related to actual witchcraft.
Is there a table at these seats?
Not really. There's a couple of sort of arm rests every now and again down the bench, every 2 or 3 seats. There's not really a table in front of them or anything, though.
Silas would then just kind of casually place his hand close to his revolver there.
Not noticing any of this occult stuff, obviously. Stoned out of my gourd on this train. Although I did notice this woman nodding, and I'll just go ahead and assume with my hindrance of delusional that she's nodding at me, and I'll nod back and smile.
Does she notice you nod back at her? Probably. Yes, she does.
Smooth operator.
And when you do that, you nod over at her. She's got her handkerchief up, and she sort of catches your nod and looks at you, and she raises an eyebrow.
I raise an eyebrow too.
She waits for another bumpy section and gives you a subtle nod that sort of asks a question as she nods.
I too wait for a bump, and I answer with an answer nod.
Okay.
For the audio audience, I did a very good nod, and everyone is incredibly amazed.
She holds your gaze for a little bit longer, and can I get another notice test?
Out of who?
All of you can do this.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, Fernando and Silas, you each have a +1 to your notice roll.
Okay. 2 4s.
Wow. I got a 4 and a 2.
Okay, so you got a 5.
I aced one.
Go ahead and roll an ad. Where were these aces during the dramatic task?
I needed to get the bad ones out of the way to get to this one. Okay, so it was an ace and then a 3 and then +1, so it's 10.
10, wow. All 3 of you notice after this sort of prolonged eye contact between the woman and Harold, she drops her hands and folds the handkerchief over the hand with the rings. But as she's folding it for a brief moment, all 3 of you notice a glow from under the handkerchief, a sort of deep green, sickly light that is cast up on the underside of that handkerchief for just a moment before she covers it with her hand. And a moment after that, you, Grotank, hear a young woman's voice echoing in your mind, as though she's whispering directly into your, not even into your ear, but sort of inside of your head.
Just another Tuesday afternoon for Grotank.
The young woman's voice says, "Who the hell are you?"
I must have looked startled for a moment, as I would. A jumpy man I am. I go ahead and I say, "Ma'am," out loud as I stand up to walk over to her.
You say this out loud and walk over to her. Can you roll me an agility test real quick?
Sure. "Hi, ma'am. My name is Grotank. I happen to be one of Colorado's leading herbologist.
Is this before or after the agility check?
May I interest you in an imbibement and an agility roll of... Da-da-da-da, click, click, click. Oh, wait, it's a die 8. I totally forgot I'm special.
You are special, Harold. So special.
I got a 7 and a 3.
That is enough. You are able to maintain your footing as you stand up and walk over to her while the train is in motion in this like bumpy, hilly section of track. You walk on over and offer the woman an imbibement.
I pull out my ghost hemp gun and I pull it over and I pack the bottom of it.
When you do that, she shrieks and like pushes herself back down the bench, grabbing at the, side of it and pointing up at you and says, "I don't know this man.
Don't worry, it's just a percolator.
Someone stop him." The conductor, who's been sort of near the front of the car to, keep tabs on if the locomotive or the firemen need any help or anything, he like spins around and sees this happening.
Okay, are we confined just to this carriage, or are we able to move between train cars?
No, you are the passengers. Because this is a shorter journey, you are expected to stay in the passenger car for the duration of the trip. The passengers are not even going to be allowed to get out. You're not even necessarily supposed to leave when the train stops for water at Devil Gorge.
Sure. Trains can be very thirsty.
You are all in the passenger car and expected to stay there as this scene begins to erupt.
I believe Grotanks was sitting next to me. I'm gonna attempt to grab his duster or whatever he's got going on, just kind of like pull him back into the chair.
It's sweatpants.
Sweatpants. So they'll come down.
I quickly light the little percolator part of my gun and I take a big old hit and I blow it out towards the woman. See? Nothing to be afraid of. It's perfectly harmless.
She doesn't look like she has been made unafraid by this display. Silas, you were trying to grab Grotanks and put him back in his chair.
I'm gonna try to just like kind of yank him towards his chair.
Grotanks, do you resist this at all?
Oh, I know. He can pull us hard. Yeah, let's go.
Beg your pardon, miss. My friend here has had too much to drink and something else that I don't quite understand.
Now, Silas, you know I gave up the alcohol. I'm a completely sober man.
My apologies. You can just ignore him and go back to your doings.
When this scene had first started, the conductor whipped around, the guard at the back of the train stood up and put his hand to his pistol. The two other men that you noticed giving her, the looks and the nods earlier and everything, both definitely looked startled and ready to draw. But once Silas drags Grotanks back and sort of puts him in his chair again, they all are just sort of standing there. And the woman, she pulls a fan out of like her little pocketbook and flips it open and starts fanning herself. And she says, "Well, I have never seen such behavior from a man and a woman he doesn't even know. I would ask you to keep your friend far away from me for the duration of our journey."
I turn to Silas and I say, I have never met such an inarticulate young woman before myself.
Well, yes, ma'am. If you would like, my friend here, and I'll gesture to Fernando as I'm holding on to Grotank still so he doesn't leave the seat, would be happy to...
I'm picturing you with your arm like around his shoulder and just firmly on the collar of his jacket or something, holding him in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it looks casual and friendly, but my fist is like gripped his collar.
Yeah, okay. I like it.
And I'll gesture to Fernando, like, if you would prefer, miss, my friend here will be happy to escort you to a different seating area away from this one.
Well, I suppose. She looks at you, Fernando.
Yeah, I stand up and I like put out the crook of my arm. I think that's what it's called, where you put out like your elbow, right?
Yeah. You offer your elbow.
I offer my elbow and I say, certainly a lady as yourself would be much more accustomed to maybe rougher company than us.
She stands up and sniffs again and sort of nods at that. And Fernando, I would like you to make me a spirit test for Dominion.
Well,
What does that mean?
So like I said earlier, when you're a Harrowed, you come back, and there are a lot of advantages to being a Harrowed. You are already dead, so it's hard to kill you again. You are able to heal at a faster rate, assuming you have some raw meat to consume and spiritually pack into the wound. There are some disadvantages, the main one being that you do have a very wicked, mischievous little spirit riding shotgun in your skull. And every now and again, those spirits try to take control to raise some mischief and cause some trouble, usually in inopportune moments. And when that happens, you make a contested roll for what's called your dominion, using your spirit. Now, Alex Fernando, like we said earlier, has been around for a while. He definitely knows a little bit about what he's doing. So I'm going to assume for this roll that you have a dominion of +1, which basically means that you're a little more in control than the spirit is most of the time. And you get a +1 on your spirit roll to try and resist dominion. However, the way that the spirit works is that its natural spirit is always a little bit stronger than yours. So what is your spirit die? What is Fernando's spirit die?
D6.
All right, so the spirit riding shotgun has a D8.
Lame.
Think like Pokemon, how your rival always takes the starter that beats yours. That's how these are.
Man, I hated blue. Do I also include a wild die in that?
You do get a wild die on this because it is a trait roll like any other. It's a special kind of trait roll, but it is still a spirit roll. What'd you get?
My highest is a 3. My lowest... Do I tell you my lowest?
Your highest is a 3. Is that including, did you roll a 1? Unless you roll 2 1s, that doesn't matter.
Cool, okay, 2 1s matter, not 1 1.
Is that 3 including your +1 bonus?
No, so it's a 4 total.
Okay, so you did get a 4 total. I need to double check real quick what happens when you get a tie on the Dominion roll.
I win, that's what happens, I'll tell you.
I don't think it's as simple as one person or the other wins.
The rules are just guidelines, I win.
I don't remember exactly how it goes, so let's double check.
You just stand there frozen for like a day. You can't move.
That's fair, I'm out of the rest of the session.
You just immediately go catatonic. All right, dang, that's not nearly as fun, but that's okay.
That's good for me.
In the case of a tie, the Manitou, which is the spirit that's controlling you,
Trying to.
allowing you to live and trying to control you, does not get control.
Ooh yeah.
But the fight leaves you shaken. And shaken is sort of a catch-all condition in Savage Worlds for any time that your character is sort of, put off guard for a moment. They can't really act or react to anything for a brief period until they get over that. Being that we are not in combat, it's safe to assume that you get over it pretty quickly. But it does mean that for a brief moment there, when you raise up your arm, she sniffs and she, puts her hand in the crook of your elbow and is clearly waiting for you to walk her to a new seat. And there's a very long moment when Fernando just stands there, staring off into space, just staring at whatever he happened to be looking at when this happened. And his eyes sort of glaze over for a moment, and everyone notices. This has been a bit of a scene in the car. Everyone who was looking at this definitely sees this happen, and they're all sort of looking at Fernando and looking at each other and wondering what's going on. And then he snaps out of it, and you're able to take her to her seat, or say or do anything else that you want to do.
Am I shaken in any way, or
Essentially, the freezing is that shaken effect, where for a moment you can't really do anything. While you're shaken in combat, you are able to move, but that's it. You can't take actions, even free actions. You can't take reactions of any kind. And so for us out of combat, that essentially translates to there's just a solid moment where you're just sort of there, and in your head you're struggling with this demon, but on the outside it's just sort of a blue screen moment where you're just standing there doing nothing, and is everything okay? And then you come back.
I look over at the lady, I'm sure she's looking at me, and then I smile and I say,
She's definitely giving you a very odd look.
I smile and I say, well, come on now, slowpoke. Should get you to your seat. Don't know why you're just standing here, weirdo.
Her look that was very curious becomes very nervous for a moment, and you take her over to her seat. She thanks you and sits down.
As we're walking over there, is there any chance that the arm that is in the crook of my elbow, am I able to see more clearly these rings that she has on her fingers?
Yeah, if you glance down, you definitely have a good eye on them. Is there anything in particular that you're looking for?
Is there, I don't know, am I able to see or discern any sort of, special property? Do they have any sort of markings on them? Are they, do they have any a rune or something? I don't know, something that might demonstrate.
Where can he buy some for his girl?
They're from Hot Topic, obviously. So, if you swing down there, you'll be able to get your girl some sweet gothic witch rings.
Right? Is there one that maybe is related to Fallout Boy in any way? I'm just...
Oh, all of them. Every single
God.
one. They're you as you look closer, you realize what you thought were like witchcraft and runes are actually just Fallout Boy lyrics on every single ring wrapping around them.
Read them out to us.
I don't want to get copyright struck. You guys at home can imagine whatever songs you want as the lyrics. But no, what's on these rings more seriously? They've got some runes, they've got some gems set in them. The most obvious one is the one that she's wearing on her index finger that has, along with a couple of markings on it, you can see it has a couple of emeralds set into the surface that have that same sort of green color that you saw the glow of earlier.
Is there... and let me know if I'm going too far with this. Is there any way to try and use... This might be a bad idea. Try and use my thievery skill?
Not particularly.
Damn it.
You're not in a situation... You maybe, if you got lucky, could do it without her noticing. It's doubtful. As you even think about it, when you look around, you see the two guys with the two guys who were looking at her earlier and the guard near the baggage car are all watching you very carefully.
Harumph. Fine. Okay, I take her to a new chair, pat her hand lightly as I direct her over to it, and I say, and then I give her I'm not wearing a hat. I just kind of give her like a little nod, and I say, you hopefully have yourself a quieter ride than you have had so far.
And she fans herself a little bit more and gives you sort of a curt little smile and thank you.
And then finger guns.
Yeah, obviously. Howdy, y'all. Brian here again. And I really hope that you're all going to look back one day and say that your favorite episode was the one where we talked about nodding and emo bands for a long time. Real quick, I'd like to give some shout outs. As always, our incredible intro music is The River by Rolemusic. One Man Symphony has provided a bunch of additional scene music that you're hearing throughout the episode. You can find them on Bandcamp. There are also a ton of contributors at freesound.org who've uploaded sound effects and ambient noises that you're hearing in this episode. If you want more info, including links to the music we've used, make sure to check the show notes. Also, a quick shout out for one of our very own members. John has begun streaming weekly on Tuesdays. That's right, the very same day of the week that this show comes out. You can find him at twitch.tv/cactusarcana, starting at about 6 p.m. Central US time. Like I mentioned at the start of the episode, we've been growing our online community, and we'd love for you to join us. You can find our social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by searching our name, Tuescast. That's TWOS cast, and use the hashtag Tuescast to say hello. You can also find our show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, and Spotify. And if you leave us a review, we'd love to shout it out in one of these breaks. If you're enjoying the podcast, we'd love for you to just tell people about us. Word of mouth is the best way to help us grow and keep us going. As a reminder, the finale for our time in Deadlands will be in another 2 weeks on April 13th, so make sure to stop by. Before that, though, the posse still has some trouble to sort through, so let's get back to the action. It's worth pointing out that throughout this whole ordeal, Grotanks has been busy with, getting high and making a scene. Fernando has been a little busy with, offering to escort this woman and thinking about trying to slip rings off of her fingers, not to mention nearly getting hijacked by a demon midway through. But
it's been a busy train ride for me.
Super busy few seconds here.
Throughout it all, Silas, you are confident that this woman was not nearly so shaken and disturbed by these events as she was putting on.
No.
she definitely doesn't seem to strike you as the helpless damsel type.
Now that she's gone from our little booth area thing, I'm imagining like a two booths facing each other situation in this train. But I don't know, like 2 benches or whatever. Will we be able to like quietly discuss things without being overheard? Or is it too close quarters for that?
You would kind of have to lean in towards each other, which means that anyone else in the car is going to see you doing that. But you definitely would be able to discuss things quietly amongst yourselves without anyone else being able to hear it. Essentially, they would know that you're talking about something and that whatever you're talking about, you don't want other people to hear, but they would not be able to hear it.
So it'd be like rude whispering.
Yes.
People would feel left out.
We wouldn't want that.
All right. Well, as I guess Fernando comes back, I will say at like kind of a normal volume of like, what the hell are you doing? You know, drinking all the time. I know you were in that bar, kid. Like, you need to calm down. Like, and then as he comes down and to sit down.
To moi? Or to...
No, not to you. As you're coming back, like that's what I'm saying to Grow Tanks.
I told you, I don't drink. I gave it up years ago. It's just the greens.
Look, I saw you come out of that bar right before we left this train, all right? Don't lie to me.
Did I drink? Oh, yeah. You're right. I think I did. Oh, my God. Am I an alcoholic?
What am I gonna do with you? I guess as we're all together, kind of lean in. All right, listen, like I said, this company's known for some witchcraft. That was definitely going on right now. I'm not sure what's happening, but because it's a company thing this company is renowned for it, I don't think anything's gonna happen on the train ride. Just try to keep your head low, but be aware. And if these guys have anything to do with our quarry, then we gotta make sure to take care of them before we continue on. Outside the train, preferably.
Do you think these witches have anything to do with the aliens that might be back in Roswell?
No, but certainly with Bigfoot, if that helps occupy your mind.
Really?
Yes.
It does occupy.
Ponder that quietly.
Oh, I ponder.
Rest of the train ride passes uneventfully until you get to Devil Gorge. And at that point, the train, slows down to announce that your stop is coming up. You hear the brakes and the locomotive lets out a whistle. Looking out the window, on one side, you can just see the Colorado mountains. It's wilderness out here. On the other side, you see a very small, plain-looking station. There's basically just a wooden platform, a very small building that presumably could be used as a post office of sorts, and a water tower that is set up so that the train can indeed take on water here, even though you all are aware that it wouldn't need to. And as it stops, the conductor does stand up and wave to everyone and says, "All right, folks, so do keep in mind, this is our planned stop at just to refill water on the locomotive, make sure everything is in order as we approach Denver. So I would ask you all to remain inside the passenger car unless there's any pressing business."
If the conductor is kind of close, I'll just kind of say to him, I'm not announcing it to the car, if you would oblige me, I think it might be a good idea to get my friend some fresh air.
He looks at Grow Tanks and says, "I agree. I think that your friend could very much do with some fresh air and maybe a little bit of cold mountain air to cool his head a little bit."
I do find that the Colorado...
Much obliged, sir. I'll just get up and start dragging it.
As you start to steer Grow Tanks away, as he's sort of caught in thought, the conductor does then look at Fernando, and he notices again just your very sallow, pale visage, and he looks at you and he gives you sort of a concerned look, and he says, "You could maybe do with some fresh air too, son. I think it might do you some good."
Certainly some time out in God's fresh air might do us all a spell of good.
Do make sure to mind yourselves. We only have we're only stopped for a couple of minutes in order to top up the water. So when you hear the whistle blow, just make sure to hustle on back to the train, or else we will have to leave you here. Another train will pick you up, I'm sure, but might not be for several hours. And the three of you disembark the train at Devil Gorge, stepping onto the wooden platform, knowing that it is from this station that you will track down your final quarry. The three of you are standing on the platform, the brisk Colorado air blowing all around you. There's a little bit of snow on the ground. You guys aren't necessarily above the snow line, but it's definitely a season where there's a little bit of snow here and there around. You're surrounded, all the trees around are pines, cedars, all that. You three are the only ones who at this moment have gotten off of the train and are on the platform of the passengers. If you look down the line, you can see one of the baggage cars. They open up the side door of it. A couple of apparent employees of the railroad or the station who have presumably come out of the station, they open up the cargo doors and they start unloading some boxes and bags from that. And they also have brought out a small cart that they hand-wheeled over that has a couple of bags in it that they are going to presumably be loading onto the train. The three of you are just sort of standing there, stretching your legs, getting some of that fresh air.
I'm telling you, man, this Colorado oxygen, when you mix it with a little bit of the Belfunga Dream, it does actually help with tannins. The THC, I know all about this. I am a scientist. It helps create the effect more quickly, more aggressively within one's body parts, of course, cerebrally, and then of course the healing abilities.
All right, you can drop the sales pitch. We ain't buying. I think we're here for business.
My mama always told me that the mark of a real scientist is one that has to keep on explaining and telling everyone that he is in fact a scientist.
Your mama sounds like a very smart lady.
So now we're off the train. They do seem to be unloading something. Now all our information points to where this is where the action's at. Why don't we try meandering over to where they are offloading some of this cargo?
You guys start wandering over there. I'm gonna look over at the station a little bit. As long as it's not super far away from where they're unloading, I would like to go over. Do they have a male dude there? Male dude, that's the official title.
Yeah, the male dude. There's a little booth. Over the booth, it says male stamped on a sign. No one's in there right now. As far as distance, nothing about this platform is very far away from any other part of it. This is definitely maybe 40 or 50 feet across total. Anywhere you walk on this thing, you have not only direct eye contact to anyone else there, but you also are pretty sure you would be able to not have to raise your voice much to be heard clearly. So as you go to check that out, Fernando and Grotanks, you are heading over to the men who are loading and unloading.
Meandering, unassumingly.
You can meander as unassumingly as you desire. As soon as you get anywhere near them and they notice that you're coming in their direction, one of them just gives you the stink eye. And they are both also armed. They have revolvers on their hips. And he turns and makes a very brazen display of pushing back one hem of his coat so that his hand is resting on his waist right above the butt of his revolver. And he looks at both of you and says, "This is official Black River business. You folks can stay by the passenger car if you're stretching your legs."
Now, fellas, we ain't here to cause trouble, just looking for a light. And I pull out a cigar from inside my jacket.
Oh, I have one, and I light it.
Why, thank you, Grotank. So helpful.
You're welcome, buddy. I have the loyalty hindrance. Anything you need, really.
All right, that's pretty good. I'm gonna at this point give all of you an extra white chip because you've all been role-playing wonderfully.
Thank you.
Oh, cool.
Woo!
You've all been doing fantastic things.
I didn't write down any of my chips.
I have been keeping track. Currently, Silas Dixon, you were at only your blue chip left. You now have a white chip and a blue chip.
Yep.
Fernando, you had spent your blue chip, so you now have 2 whites and a red. Grotank, you had earlier gained a white chip and then spent it, and now you're gaining another one. So you have 2 whites, a red, and a blue.
Nice.
Someone's been stingy with their chips so far. We'll see if we can't break that habit. So Grotank lights the cigar for Fernando in a very loyal display of well-meaning ineptitude. The 2 employees are just sort of staring at you at this point. The one who wasn't giving you the stink eye earlier has finished unloading things from the train and in fact throws the last bag from the little cart into the car. He's got his hand on the handle of the door ready to slide it back shut. And about this time, Silas, you've, looked at the station and realized what's going on there. You turn around to see this happen. And the conductor leans his head out from the passenger door and sort of calls out as he's looking and he says, "We're about ready to get going. Are you boys coming back?" And he is cut off by a heavy thump.
Uh-oh.
As you see, Silas, you have a clearer view of this than the other 2, but all 3 of you can see as a gloved hand sort of slams into his chest and grabs him by the collar and pushes him back into the train. And one of the guys that you saw earlier, who has the rifle on his back, the revolver at his hip, and was given eyes with the other guy and the woman, has pushed the conductor back into the train, and he steps out onto the platform, grabs the door, and closes it behind him. Gives a couple of hard thumps on it, and the whistle blows as the train starts to pick up steam and move away from the platform. The three of you are standing there with three men, the one who had just gotten off of the train, and the two employees who had been loading and unloading. All three of them are just sort of standing there in that archetypal Western ready stance. They're not drawing, they're not even really going for their guns, but they're clearly ready.
You boys look like you could use some Balfunga Dream.
That's what I was gonna say. I pull out my gun.
Oh boy, all right.
It's my pipe!
You pull out your gun. At that, all three of them grab for their guns. Are the two of you grabbing for your guns?
Yeah, seeing that movement, I'd probably go for mine.
All right, you go for your gun. Alex?
Boy, I was going for a clever ruse, but I guess not. Yeah, I'm gonna pull out my gun.
It has to be said that the three of you are, to a man, trained gunfighters and trained killers. All of you have shot and killed men before. All of you know the sort of techniques and traits that it takes to be a good gunfighter.
I think Grotank has maybe just misfired his percolator in other people's direction.
Grotank may claim that it's an accident as much as he likes.
Science, bro.
Listen, you were holding a gun, the gun went off, somebody died from the gunshot.
Just the bowl is so close to the gunpowder part of it.
Something happened there. Whatever the case may be, these three men simply are not of that caliber. They are not that skilled, they are not that well trained. Even the man who pushed the conductor back in, he seems like he knows what he's doing a little bit more than the other two, but he's still not really that skilled. And even as this scene really starts to pick up tension, the train is pulling out, and you can see on the other side of the train, as it peels away, the other man and the woman are both standing there. The other man has his rifle drawn. The woman gives you all a smile and raises her hand, and that sickly green glow comes from a ring and begins to envelop into a flame around her hand. But the three of you were already prepared for something like that to happen. And so this is gonna run as a quick encounter. This is something that Savage Worlds has as another one of its sort of subsystems. That's a very useful way to deal with encounters that are worth rolling over, but not necessarily worth spending the full time of a full combat on. The fact of the matter is that you guys are likely going to win this no matter what.
Hey, don't spoil.
I'd like you to each roll. We're gonna do this as a two-stage encounter, and the second stage will depend on how well the first stage goes. But for the first stage, this is very much a combat encounter. And so I need the three of you to roll fighting, shooting, or some other skill related to your character's combat abilities. You can pick whichever skill you want, and you can go in whichever order you want. This is not going to be a combat where we duel out initiative.
If that's the case, I'm gonna go ahead and as I quickly pack my pipe gun, I'm gonna take a quick rip and cast the spell Quickness upon myself.
Ooh, all right.
Using my mad scientist powers, I've grabbed the right strain of Balfunga Dream, this one I call the Fast Funga, and I've slapped it in.
All right, so quickness is going to be a modifier that you apply to the speed spell, and so you are going to need to spend 4 power points since you are looking to do that specific modifier for the spell, and you're going to need to go ahead and roll your weird science skill for me to activate that power and see if it activates, and if it does, how well it activates.
Here I go with the roll. Click. I got a 5 and a 4.
A 5 and a 4 means that it takes. You get a success. And so as you inhale that whiff of your special brew, you feel it limbering up your limbs, and you sense time seems to slow down around you. And you are able to react very, very quickly. And that means that were this a full combat encounter, your speed would be doubled, and you would be able to reduce the multi-action penalty each turn by 2. What I'm gonna say, because this is a quick encounter, is that that's going to allow you to add a +2 to whatever roll you make for the quick encounter.
Nice.
Ludicrous speed, go!
I do know that we have another spell user among the group. Does Silas want to do anything to power up before this fight?
Not for this one. I think he's saving up his PowerPoint.
For something down the line?
Yeah. So right now, however, I do have in my main pistol, I have loaded up some shootist bullets, specifically bullet with your name on it, which ignores 2 points of cover. If this is all kind of happening at the same time, do I see the witch powering up?
You very much can see the witch as you're looking at things. I imagine the shooting is going to start almost as soon as you can all see each other. So as soon as that train really pulls away from the platform and you can see the witch and the other man who presumably got off on the other side of the passenger car, that's when everyone goes for their guns.
I'm gonna fire one off at the witch then.
Since you are loaded with your special shootist bullets, which are the special bullets that you've carved runes into for your magical power as a hex slinger, I'm gonna let that also give you a +2 to your roll.
Oh, okay, cool.
Since even if she manages to sort of dive for cover or hide behind a rock or a tree or anything like that, your bullet is gonna curve right around that to try and get her. So go ahead and roll that for me.
I got a 7, +2 is a 9.
That is a success and a raise.
If you were to see this bullet, this is the bullet with your name on it, so it actually either ricochets or curves around things. You might see that Silas didn't quite shoot her, trusting in his bullet, so you'll see at the last minute there, where it would have hit the train, it curves in to go towards her.
She goes down in a heap as soon as you begin shooting. Grotank, do you want to go next for us?
I will go ahead and use my quickness to pack the chamber of my hemp gun with some of the old-fashioned Bofunga Dream and point it at the 2 men standing by the supplies, I suppose, half packed in supplies, whatever it is, and use blast.
Being that this is a quick encounter, you don't actually have to use the power points for that. That's fine.
Tight.
Just go ahead and roll me a shooting roll with your +2. Actually, I will say if you want to use the power points for it, I will go ahead and have that give you another +2, but you do have to spend those power points. And that is going to be...
Oh, I'll go ahead and spend them. It's a 2 to a 6. I'm going to go ahead and spend 2.
Go ahead, spend 2 of those. Actually, that's going to be 3 power points. So go ahead and spend your 3 power points on blast from your gun. And yeah, you fire that off. You get an extra +2, so you're rolling at a total of +4.
Yeah, it's a 7 and a 5.
And is that already including your bonus?
Nope.
So that's an 11.
Yep, thank you.
Because this is a quick encounter, we'll finish sort of narrating exactly how everything goes down once we get all the rolls. Alex, what's Fernando gonna do?
Fernando has readied his trademark weapon, the Colt Peacemaker 45 single action, and I'm going to shoot. So the lady is down. She's down in a heap.
So because this is a quick encounter, you're not really necessarily shooting at anybody in particular. We can certainly narrate it out as people being shot at in particular. And if that is the case, then Silas Dixon shot the witch. Grotanks has taken out the 2 employees. The 2 men from the train are still standing.
I'm going to fire a shot at each of the 2 men.
Go ahead and roll me your shooting roll.
I have a D10 for shooting with a +1 for my trademark weapon. 7 + 1, 8.
You all got raises, which in a dangerous quick encounter like this one means that you guys all come out of this completely unscathed. As soon as that train clears the platform, everyone goes for their guns. And there's a flurry of gunfire.
It's all from us.
It is. It's all from you guys. Silas Dixon, first to fire. He brings his gun up, pops off a shot. It doesn't even wait to clear the train. It comes in at an impossible angle and takes the witch, blows her chest out, and she collapses to the ground in a heap, the fire dissipating from around her hand. Grotanks is quick to fire up his hemp-powered percolator gun. Even as he finishes inhaling the smoke, he's able to line up the perfect shot, fires the blast. The bullet doesn't so much rip into the air as explode.
I imagine as a belch of green flaming fury.
The flames just wash over the 2 employees, and they both drop to the ground scorched before they can even clear leather. The 2 last men are better trained. They start to draw their pistols, but before they can even really get them up in time, Fernando Lopez is on it. He fires at the closer one, and he spins around from the force of the shot and tumbles off of the platform onto the railway. The last man standing on the opposite side is able to get his gun out of his holster, and he halfway has it up to fire when Fernando's second shot, whipping around, slams his hand on the hammer of his revolver, and it just tears right through the guy's gut. He doubles over, stumbles, fires one shot directly into the ground in front of him, and collapses.
I say something super cool. He won't be in Rush Hour 3.
Okay.
I thought you were gonna do like a reference there, but that was not the one I expected.
I tried. I don't know. I'm doing my best.
Hey, no, you're good. Hey, that's excellent. So in a matter of seconds, this fight is over, and the three of you are standing there as the smoke clears, and then you can see a little ways away from you, two men jumping on horses and trying to ride away from you. They are in old, worn-out Confederate uniforms, and they are jumping on horses and starting to ride off away from the station. You do spy 4 other horses hitched nearby to where they grabbed their 2, and you have an option that you have to make in a split-second decision. Will you give chase, or are you just gonna try and shoot these boys down?
I do have a Winchester 76.
I got some more PowerPoints here. I'm going to go ahead and start loading up the old Lafunga Express here.
Are we close enough to them where that would be reasonable to shoot them with my 6 gun?
You would be able to shoot at them. With a pistol, you would be firing at medium range, which means you are going to take a -2 to the roll for the range penalty.
I guess I can switch to my Winchester fast too.
Oh yeah, no, you absolutely could switch to rifles. Anyone who has rifles or longer range weapons on you, they are like getting their horses ready to go. You definitely have enough time to grab up a rifle and take a shot.
Oh yeah, if they're not even on it yet, then I'm gonna take shots before I even think about chasing them.
So anyways, I started blasting.
This is fun. This is the fun part.
Rifles, go ahead and fire for me, since Fernando and Silas, you do have the quick edge, which isn't applying directly in this case, but it is going to give you the advantage, being able to fire pretty quickly here before they are able to get on the way or anything.
Yikes. Silas misses.
Oh, what did you get?
3.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Do you want to spend a chip?
I'll spend my white, I'll re-roll.
All right.
That's a 6.
Okay, that's a hit. Go ahead and roll your damage for me on this one. You guys finished up the quick encounter very handily, and since you're shooting at these guys, it's not necessarily its own quick encounter right now.
I got a 9 for damage.
Got a 9 for damage? All right. You pull up your rifle. Silas sees the 2 men, holsters his revolver, draws his rifle, aims, fires. One man goes down in a heap off of his horse as the rifle cracks. You work the lever rapidly in case you need a second shot, but you may not. Alex, did you roll your shooting for Fernando already?
Yes, I did.
What did you get?
I aced my wild die, and I got a 6 on my D10.
Okay, go ahead and roll your wild die for me again then, because you do roll that and add to the total.
2.
Okay, so that's a total of 8, which is a success with a raise. So go ahead and roll your damage for your rifle for me, and add an extra D6 to that roll that can also ace. Fernando has also hit and dealt how much damage?
14 damage.
Oh my god. Fernando, you similarly drop your revolver into its holster, raise your rifle, fire, and the second man...
There's just 4 horse legs standing, that's it?
No. You do hit the guy, and his head just bursts, and his hat is flown up into the air from the force. His body stays on the horse for a couple of seconds and then flops over sideways. You have taken out the 2 riders who presumably were going to go alert their comrades and have been so kind as to show the 3 of you the trail that you need to take to get to your destination.
Okay, let me try a cool phrase again. All right, they're not gonna be in Rush Hour 3.
Hey, that guy's not gonna be in Two's Cast Season 2.
Dibs on that horse, though.
Do you want me to give you a clean soundbite of one of us saying we help each other? John, give me a clean sound of you saying, I help Fernando.
I'm gonna help Fernando with my roll.
Sweet. I'm not gonna like move that or edit it. I just, want to have that thing.
Yeah, no, now it's there.
Oh no.
Now everyone knows your
She's trying to
secrets.
paint me as a fraud.
Yes.
Now all of China will know what you've done.
Can I roll a pee outside check?